and we're on the prowl. Hello, and welcome to the first video version of the Daily Princetonian Sports Podcast, On the Prowl. I'm Vikram Rao, Executive Editor for Sports, alongside Gabe DeBenedetti, Associate Editor for Sports, and Kiran Gollakota', Staff Writer. Today we'll be talking about the weekend in Princeton athletics that consisted of a number of big games. To start, the biggest story this weekend is the women's tennis team, which won its second consecutive Ivy League title. The Tigers last year split the title with Harvard, and this year, after sweeping Cornell and Columbia this weekend, have actually secured themselves a title outright. It's the first time Princeton has won titles in back-to-back seasons since 1993 and 94. Guys, your thoughts?
Well, as far as I can tell, it was a pretty impressive performance. It's a pretty small team, so it's a brand new coach this year.
Very small team.
So
yep.
So it's important to remember that they have to be a pretty close team, and they have it's been not an easy year for them, but they've been very competitive on a national scale. So, I don't think there are that many negatives to take from this year at all. It's just been a pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, this is a team that's actually been ranked in the top 30 to 35 nationally much of the season. They played some good teams and played them pretty competitively earlier in the year. And, the thinking was they'd come into the Ivy League season and, hopefully be able to take care of the Ivy League teams without too much trouble, and that's exactly what happened. So this team will be headed to the NCAA tournament, and we'll be hoping for big things. Moving on, the men's lacrosse team had a game against Dartmouth this week, an Ivy League contest. The last couple of games, the team had struggled a little bit. Last weekend, of course, they fell to Syracuse, 13-4, and then on Tuesday night, they beat Rutgers, but it was a tough, tight game, hard-fought. Well, what happened this Saturday, Kiran? You were there.
Well, this contest was really no contest, Vikram.
Right.
Because Dartmouth, right from the get-go, just didn't seem to be in this game. You had Jack McBride with 5 goals and 2 assists, matching his career high in points. You had Mike Chanchuk getting to 21 goals, the sixth freshman in Princeton history to score more than 20 goals in his first year. And you had Princeton absolutely dominating on the faceoff X. You had Jeffrey Caro winning incredible percentage of his faceoffs, along with Peter Smythe. Both of them also scoring goals.
Right.
It was a very well-balanced game for
Right. Faceoffs have been, at times, an area of struggle for this team over the last couple of years, and it was nice to see them really come out and dominate on the X. Defensively, also, they played very well, allowing only 2 goals. Didn't give up any goals until the second half.
Yeah, it was a very impressive performance from the whole team defensively.
Yeah.
Not just Tyler Fiorito, who, of course, had another great game in net, letting in only 2 goals, which is pretty damn good in lacrosse.
Yep.
And it's been a tough stretch for the team. They didn't have star defender Chad Wiedemeyer at the beginning. The last few weeks, even though he's been back, they let in a bunch against Syracuse and didn't have the greatest performance against Rutgers. So to see them step up against an admittedly weak Dartmouth team and still, manage to beat them by 14 goals, it was really a sort of interesting thing to see, and it means a lot, I think, going into the next few games.
Yeah, definitely. And, Dartmouth might not be the strongest team in the league, but let's not forget that they did beat Cornell earlier in the year.
Right.
It was pretty well understood. Cornell split the title with Princeton last year, and Cornell is the team that knocked Princeton out of the NCAA tournament last year and beat them in the regular season. So this is kind of the team to beat this year for Princeton. So beating Dartmouth, transitivity property doesn't always hold in sports, but it's worth something when you beat a team 16-2 that had beaten Cornell 8-6 earlier in the season.
Right.
Moving on from men's lacrosse, the baseball team had a very important 4-game series, against Columbia this weekend. Last season they were in this exact same position, needing to win a number of games to kind of get back into the swing of things in the Gehrig division, and they took 3 of 4 from Columbia. This season, things didn't go quite as well.
Yeah, I think it's fairly, it's fair to say that this hasn't been the Tigers' season so far. They're a very young team. They have a lot of potential there. They've lost a lot of senior leadership, and it's really not as great a team as I think we saw last year. They're still pretty good, but this last weekend showed that they're not quite back up to the top level of the Ivy League anymore.
Yeah. Princeton ended up winning 1 game in which, as you've said, we saw a little bit of the youth movement. The freshman pitcher, Zach Hermans, pitched a complete game. Princeton won 9-3 in that game, but in the other 3 games, the Tigers fell. On the flip side, the softball team also played a 4-game series against Columbia, and they've really struggled this season. It's been a very tough year, but this was a little bit of a silver lining this weekend. They won 3 of the 4 games, and Jamie Latier, the senior, who pitches, plays outfield, plays first base, actually broke the home run record.
Yeah, I mean, that was a highlight of the season, really, so far.
Yeah.
They have, as you said, they really have not been having that great a season, but it was a good weekend for the team, and that's really, all we can say about it. There's not too much that they can take moving forward, because it doesn't seem to be, again, it's not their year. But it's a good sign, I think, that they're, starting to pick it up.
Really struggled with injuries and whatnot, and this was kind of nice to see. Another team that's been struggling a little bit, the women's lacrosse team. Very tough result this weekend, losing on the road to Harvard, 11-9. The Tigers had actually not lost to Harvard since 1992, which is around the time the freshmen were being born.
Right.
That's got to be a tough one to stomach.
I mean, frankly, last year they were one of the top few teams in the country, but, this year they're, again, a very, very young team, and they have been struggling with some injuries, so, it was a tough result, and it's been going like that recently for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of parity on both sides of the aisle in college lacrosse, and I think it's something to be said that Harvard's managed to come back and have a pretty standout season in their own right. So just have to pick up and move on and try and close it out with some class.
That's true.
Couldn't agree more. Princeton is now 3 games under 500. They're 5-8. They have 3 games remaining, and then an Ivy League tournament if they're able to qualify. And yeah, as you said, I mean, last season Princeton beat Harvard 17-5, and this year they come back and lose 11-9. So parity is something that lacrosse as a sport in college had struggled with for many years, and I think we're finally starting to see a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
Other sports, the men's volleyball team had a nice showing this weekend.
Yeah, they're doing quite well, and they're set up in a pretty good position for the EIVA playoffs and the tournament. You have guys just like Jeff McCown and Pat Schwagler just playing really well, getting his swag on, and I really think if everything goes well, head coach Sam Schweizke has kind of directed this season towards the goal of meeting Penn State in the finals of the EIVA tournament, and I think we should see that happening. I think that's a definite possibility, and by the time you get to that level, and we've lost to Penn State twice, but in the finals of a major tournament looking for an NCAA berth, anything can happen.
Yep, I think Penn State, a team that's winning national championships with stunning regularity. That's the best you can ask for when you're an EIVA team, to have a chance to play them. And with the victory over Rutgers Newark, this is one of the other very good teams in the EIVA. Princeton actually swept Rutgers Newark on the season, and that definitely bodes well looking forward into the playoffs. Yeah, so thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back next week prowling some more.